Hello, everyone. My name is Alise A Préjéan of Alise A Préjéan, Astrology and Healing Arts. So, if you've been following me on my channel, you know that it's been a bit since I've done a video. Virgo season has turned out to be quite productive in lots of different ways, but less productive in regards to making videos. So I'm super happy to be here and be making this video for you. So I had a request for a Pisces full moon video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Pisces full moon. I'm going to talk about some interesting transits we've been experiencing. And I'm going to talk about the new moon in Libra that's coming. And I know we're backtracking a little bit with this Pisces full moon and talking about it, but sometimes we understand a little bit more about how things happened when we look back, and sometimes that can be really helpful in understanding astrology and seeing how it's actually working in our lives and expressing in our lives. Sometimes the best way is to look back and see how things actually unfolded. So we're going to do it that way in this video as far as the Pisces full moon. And so it's actually pretty perfect because Mercury is retrograde right now. Mercury went retrograde in Libra, and it's going to make its way back into Virgo, its own sign. And so let's see here. I want to tell you when Mercury went retrograde, and it has been such a busy, productive time that I'm forgetting when that actually went retrograde. So, Mercury went retrograde on September 10th at 8 degrees of Libra. Okay, and what is going to happen is it's going to retrograde all the way back to 24/25 degrees of Virgo. So you can find out where that is in your chart, what house it's in, because that's going to show you where this particular function of consciousness is happening for you. So what aspects of life this is likely to be coming into this place where you're really actually moving consciousness inward. Any kind of a retrograde planet is really actually pulling our consciousness inward, in the sense of we're allowing our right brain thinking to come into play, to have space to really give us insights in a more holistic point of view. Because as we all know, we have left brain function and right brain function. Left brain function is linear thinking, and right brain function is where we've gathered a lot of information, and then suddenly we just know things. We're not exactly sure how we know, but we know, right? And this is actually a function of the higher mind. It's the function of, as I said, our intuitive, feminine side of consciousness, where we can actually really have these intuitive insights, intuitive hits on our next steps. And with Mercury, this is all about the nervous system and our, as I said, our perceptions and information. And this being Mercury and Libra, this means that, you know, this has to do with how we're relating to ourselves, how we're relating with anything and everything in the outside world. And this, of course, includes our relationships of all kinds. And what is going to happen is that, being that Mercury is going to go back into Virgo, this is really going to be looking at what quality of consciousness we're desiring to grow, and what is it that, you know, would be beneficial for us to actually eliminate from the garden of consciousness we're desiring to grow, because it would be a distraction, or it would be something that isn't really in alignment with our own personal path of the expression of the divine, or you know, what, as I said, what quality of consciousness we're desiring to really cultivate in our lives as a contribution to the collective and to the divine, or what we see as divine. So going back to this Pisces full moon, so I'm looking at it here, and Now, this was at 17 degrees, almost 18 degrees of Virgo Pisces. Full moon, we know that means moon was in Pisces, right? Sun was in Virgo. And the moon at that full moon was in what's called the balsamic conjunction, or completing conjunction, with Neptune in Pisces. So that's interesting because it says a few things to me. One is that because it's in a culminating or balsamic conjunction, a completing conjunction with Neptune, this can really be, noticing emotionally and through our own feeling nature what it is that really needs to be dissolved in our own, it could be routines, our daily practices, and or how we see the divine, maybe our beliefs, and we'll talk about that more as this video progresses, because there's some important pieces since this full moon around our beliefs. And so the moon coming into that nice balsamic conjunction to Neptune can really be dissolving any areas where maybe we have experienced ourselves not cultivating what it is we're really devoted to, and where our routines may not be actually set up in a way, or we haven't set them up in a way, we haven't navigated or created routines in our lives that has set us up to really grow the type of practices that nurture the quality of consciousness we desire, right? Now, so interestingly, Venus had just moved into Virgo, and Mars and Venus are a little bit square, Mars and Gemini, right? And there's a little bit of tension between this Mars and Gemini to Virgoan consciousness in general right now and throughout Virgo season. So that tension can be harnessed, though. If you've been following me, you know I actually really like squares because they actually do prod us to take action. And, being on the earth plane, it is about taking action towards the quality of consciousness we desire to grow. So Mars, with a square to this Virgo, is really asking us to apply ourselves, to really take action towards the quality of consciousness that we are desiring to grow and contribute in the world and to the collective. So that, Mars has been kind of in this square tension as Venus has been in Virgo through this Virgoan season as well. So, Mercury is applying towards an opposition to Jupiter. And as I'm doing this video, today's September 19th, we're at the culmination of Virgo season, and the sun's going to move into Libra very soon. But, yesterday on the 18th of September, Mercury was in an exact opposition to Jupiter. And this is an interesting piece because this is really having us look at how we're defining things and what our beliefs are and how we define things and what our beliefs are and how that contributes to how we relate to ourselves, as well as how we're relating to anything and everything in the outside world. And really, this is important because Jupiter is really about our beliefs creating a foundation of support in order for our own consciousness in which we are going to build from, right? So beliefs and the meaning that we give things and the way that we define things really does either contribute as support to our own security emotionally, and to that which we desire to build in the outside world, or it's something that can be debilitating to it. So with Mercury opposing Jupiter in Aries, this can really have us having experiences in the outside world, because oppositions tend to be experiences in relationships or in circumstances that we find ourselves in, situations we find ourselves in, where we're actually really getting that mirror. We're getting this reflective quality in regards to really looking at, you know, in this case, how am I defining things? What do I really believe? Have I taken on beliefs from others, or thoughts of others, or perceptions of others that really aren't in alignment with what I truly believe, and what is actually not in alignment with my own sense of the divine and my own spiritual path? And this refers back to that moon balsamic to Neptune and the Pisces full moon, is really like, what is actually just not quite resonant anymore, or maybe it never was, in regards to what I really, how I perceive the divine, how I perceive God consciousness, or how I perceive my own path to be, right? And on the day that Jupiter and Mercury were both retrograde and opposing each other, the moon was actually squaring those two in Cancer. And so this really is interesting and such a lovely design, as it always is, because that moon in Cancer could really having us feeling and sussing out, even from our gut, like what we're really feeling about communications or beliefs or relationships, or a relationship with ourselves that is just actually not really ours, and not resonant with us, which is okay, because we're all, really going to likely find that, truth really contains all truths, and that we're all correct at the end of the day, because no matter whatever it is that we're inclined to believe, it can actually be something that is valuable for us in our own evolutionary journey. Everything can always be transmuted into something that's actually working for us. And so it really is about looking at that. And so this is why it is so important to be completely in alignment with our own personal beliefs and our personal perceptions, because this is what's actually really navigating our personal evolutionary path, which is, really necessary to the collective. Even if there are people that do not agree with us, or we don't agree with others, it is very, very important for us to all be in alignment with our own personal truth, so that we can truly be where we need to be, with who we need to be with, and in circumstances that are going to contribute to the collective whole. So, that moon squaring after the full moon, and it moving through the signs all the way to Cancer, and then at that same day, Mercury was opposing Jupiter retrograde. Mercury is retrograde also. This can really be having these experiences where we might have ease and capacity to connect to the higher mind, to recognizing what isn't really resonant with a more full way of perceiving things, or a more holistic way of perceiving things, which can be really helpful. I love retrogrades, because retrogrades really do have us connect with the higher mind. The thing is that, our egos, the physical mind, is only designed to navigate to a certain extent. And so it's really important that we have these retrograde experiences, so that we do relax enough, so that we allow the higher mind to come in, and we really are able to have a more holistic point of view. Even if the finite mind, the physical mind, the ego doesn't completely understand how things are going to work, the higher mind is the part of our consciousness that can actually grasp past, present, and future, can grasp, all these different, what seems to be unrelated information, but then bring it into a sudden knowing and a sudden understanding, a certain even belief in knowing, and not even knowing how we know, we just know. And this is the higher mind, right? So we allow that higher mind to take over. We allow it to actually assist us to navigate in a more holistic way and to get us from here to there in the quickest possible route, right? So there's a lot of retrograde planets right now. You probably know that if you're following astrology. And so we've got Pluto, Saturn, Uranus, Mercury, Jupiter, and Chiron retrograde. I did a video on that, so you could check that out if you wanted to. It's the latest video, I believe, that I posted. And there's some, I think, interesting pieces in there that might be worthy of contemplation in navigating retrograde planets. So I really feel that this full moon in Pisces was setting us up for this process of Mercury retrograde opposing Jupiter retrograde. And, it's perfect because then the moon, as that exact opposition happened, the moon was in Cancer squaring the two. Really, this is helpful because it's going to help us just in our guts know and feel and notice where it is that we're out of alignment and how we can get back into alignment with our own personal beliefs, our own personal perceptions, but also notice where it is we may have actually, in order to feel emotionally secure, where we agree to other people's beliefs or other people's perceptions that were really not ours. So this is just such a beautiful design. Notice what's happening for you. Notice if you are having, maybe even memories of the past, or noticing how you've been growing your own life, your own consciousness, and where it is that you may have taken on beliefs that maybe at one point were resonant but are no longer resonant, and that actually maybe you even took on beliefs and thoughts, perceptions that were not yours and that really just don't work for you because they're not yours. They aren't meant for you. They may be meant for someone else, but they're not meant for you. So this is really about releasing those things. And that full moon in Pisces, and this process between the full moon in Pisces to the new moon in Libra, is all about that. Releasing the things that are really not ours, that may have come from the collective or may have come from relationships that really just, they really are not beneficial to us personally. The thing I love about Virgo is that it is about discernment. And so, there's a difference between discernment and judgment. If you've been following me, I've talked about this, that one of the shadows of Virgo could be going into judgment of other people's thoughts, perceptions, beliefs, or judgment in general. And that only lowers our vibration to the level of that which we're judging, right? So we want to actually just utilize the discernment piece that Virgo is so good at. This part of our consciousness is really good at, is discerning, oh, maybe that works for you, but it doesn't work for me. And so it can, it can be like not placing judgment on someone because they believe something else, or they think something else, or they're perceiving something else that we do not perceive, but just recognizing that in discerning, that doesn't actually work for me. And maybe it worked for me before, but now it doesn't work for me. Or maybe it really never worked for me. But that doesn't mean that it's bad or wrong. It actually just, maybe it means that it just works for someone else, and it works beautifully for them in their own evolutionary process. So now let's go to the new moon in Libra. It's getting dark out here, as you can see. I felt inspired to do this video, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Even though it's getting a little dark, I wanted to do it. I just did a live on my personal page on Facebook, and it was about Virgo season, and I was out here doing it, and it got me all kind of warmed up to do videos. So the new moon in Libra, this is going to be at almost 3 degrees of Libra, and a new moon means that there's a conjunction of the moon and the sun, right? And Mercury will still be retrograde. It's going to be at 27 degrees of Virgo then. And interestingly, Mercury is going to be heading or approaching in its retrograde to Venus in Virgo at almost 26 degrees. So they're going to be conjunct. So that's really interesting in regards to our own, again, our relationships, what's being communicated in our relationships, what's not being communicated in our relationships. It can be really assessing what adjustments could be made, or what improvements could be made in how we're relating to ourselves and our own personal evolutionary path and the quality of consciousness we desire to grow, and then how that relates to our relationships as well. So now this new moon in Libra is going to be opposing Jupiter retrograde in Aries. Very interesting. Again, this is another really I would say months of assessing what we really believe, and are our beliefs supporting us in our own evolutionary path, and what beliefs could fall away, what needs to be dissolved in old belief structures that do not resonate anymore with our personal path now. And this can have an effect on all of our relationships as well, and how we relate to ourselves, how others relate to us. So just being aware that, because the new moon is in Libra, this could be initiating new circumstances in relationships in general. Now, let's see what else is going on here. I just feel inclined to mention that Jupiter is going to retrograde back into Pisces. And so this really points, in my opinion, it points to that we are actually dissolving beliefs that may have come from the collective unconscious, and also could have even been philosophies and religions that really, or even different cultures that really do not resonate with us personally, or do not work for us anymore. Maybe they worked for us at some point. So interestingly, this new moon has a really important piece, again, around beliefs, relationships, our own perceptions, what works for us, what doesn't, what really is a distraction, what really is something that is just not contributing to the quality of consciousness we desire to cultivate in our own lives. So one last piece I want to bring in, because it's getting dark and the video is getting long, isn't it? Almost 25 minutes. So let me just tell you though, one more thing is, as I speak, this is September 19th. Venus is in Virgo. It's quincunx to Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, while trining Uranus in Taurus. And you probably know Uranus is retrograde. Saturn retrograde is squaring Uranus in Taurus retrograde, right? And then, as I said, Venus is now quincunxing the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, trining Uranus retrograde in Taurus. What does this mean? Well, really, you know, we can really be looking at where are we investing our energy and consciousness. So Venus being in a quincunx to Saturn retrograde in Aquarius is like, you know, what do we need to detach from so that we can invest our consciousness into the new reality that we desire to experience and that we are seeing now? Where do we want to invest? You know, Taurus and Venus is all about investment. Where's our heart? That's what we want to invest in, is where our heart really is, you know? So Venus quincunx, what adjustments need to be made in wherever we're investing? And that could be in any way. It could be with our energy, could be with our consciousness, could be with our money, could be with our time, could be with anything. You know, what adjustment needs to be made? Because if we're investing in something that contributes to a reality that we actually do not desire to experience, then this is going to debilitate our capacity to actually embody that reality moving forward. So this is a great contemplation to have. Venus is trine Uranus. You can get some insights right now. You could get some, you know, even an ease and flow and energy in regards to relationships or resources, something like that, that actually comes in, that is supportive of making that adjustment. So, by the way, I always like to let people know, Mercury retrograde, Scorpio South Node, great time to rewire the synapses of your brain, rewire the unconscious mind. Do you know that it takes 8 times of doing something for it to remain in your long-term memory? And then it takes 28 times of doing something for it to actually remain in the unconscious mind. So something to contemplate and to actually, you could play with as Mercury is retrograde and as the Scorpio is the South Node, because this is all about rewiring the unconscious mind. So maybe I'll do a video about that particularly. I think it could be helpful. So I'll be thinking about doing that. It could be quite helpful for eclipse season, which is coming up. So stay tuned. I'm going to bring this in again and we'll elaborate on it. So just remember, Mercury retrograde, great time to actually be rewiring the synapses of the brain. And remember, Mercury is going to refer to Gemini also, not just Virgo, but also Gemini, where Mars is right now. So even if you can just take even the smallest of actions, can actually rewire your brain into the new directions that you desire to go into, to really take action and seed what you love. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any thoughts, insights, comments, I love to read them. I love to interact with you. Thanks so much for joining me. And if you found anything helpful in this video, I would so appreciate your support and liking the video or sharing the video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.